CPO 2020-12 reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPO 2020-13. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2020-13 for reporting out to the council. Finance.
Point of order.
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
Yes, 13 is public safety, Councilman Brown.
I missed that.
You have 14.
Sorry. Okay. CPO 2020-14. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
14, and Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Councilman Williams is recognized.
I'm sorry. For the committee, it has before 2013. I'm sorry about that. For the record, I approve this ordinance resolution for reporting out to council. This will be public safety. Mr. President, the majority of the committee has approved ordinance resolution number 2020-13 for reporting out to the council.
So the members of that committee, yes,
Yes.
I vote yes,
Yes.
as well as Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Reporting out.
Mr. President, Finance Committee would like to report out CPO 2020-12 and 2020-14.
Thank you. And the meeting will be,
Mr. President,
okay, that's right, go ahead.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay is recognized.
under 2020-13, that's talking about the jurisdiction of the city court. That is absolutely under the council. I would like to see the Judge Deidre Monroe to be given this document and make some comments before the planning committee where it is, because we have full jurisdiction. I don't know whether she participated at all in the rewrite of this jurisdiction, but she also would be the best person to do it. Certainly, she's a city court judge and has been in office since 2000. Invited to the committee.
So I would suggest, I did talk to Judge Monroe about it, and I would suggest we invite her to the Public Safety Committee meeting to give.
Yeah, I would like to see something in writing as opposed to a verbal conversation.
Absolutely, we can make sure that that's done in writing.
Yes.
I think that concludes our first reading. We now have special and select. Councilman Weatherspoon is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right, as we celebrate African American History Month, traditional, many people I found do not understand the origin, why we have African History Month, who started it, and even when, for that matter. So what I'd like to do is give a brief overview over African American history, the month itself, and the originator. All right, so Carter G. Woodson was an African American writer and historian known as the father of black history. He dedicated his career to the field of African American history and lobbied extensively to establish Black History Month as a nationwide institution. Carter Godwin Woodson was born December 19, 1875 in New Canton, Virginia, to Anna Riddle Woodson and James Woodson. The fourth of 7 children, young Woodson worked as a sharecropper and miner to help his family. He began his high school in his late teens and proved to be an excellent student, completing a 4-year course of study in less than 2 years. After attending Berean College in Kentucky, he worked for the U.S. government as an educator, superintendent in the Philippines. He undertook more travels before returning stateside to continue his studies, earning his bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Chicago. Carter Godwin Woodson went to receive a doctorate from Harvard University in 1912, becoming just the second African American to earn a PhD from the prestigious institution, with, of course, Dr. E.B. Du Bois being the first. After finishing his education, Carter G. Woodson dedicated himself to the field of African American history. In 1915, Mr. Woodson, or should I say Dr. Woodson, helped found the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. Later named the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, which had the goal of placing African American historical contributions front and center. Outside of his writing, Woodson held down several positions in academia. He served as the principal of Armstrong Manual Training School in Washington, D.C., before becoming a dean at Howard University and West Virginia Collegiate Institution. Carter G. Woodson wrote more than 1,000 books over the course of his career, the most notable, The Miseducation of the Negro, which was published in 1933. With its focus on Western indoctrination systems and African American self-empowerment, Miseducation has become required reading at numerous colleges and universities. He lobbied schools and organizations to participate in special programs to encourage the study of African American history, which began February of 1926 with the Negro History Week. The program was later expanded and renamed Black History Month. Carter G. Woodson died on April 3rd, 1950, a respected and honored figure who received accolades for his vision. His legacy lives on, with Black History Month being a national cultural force recognized by many media formats, organizations, and educational institutions. A quote by Mr. Carter G. Woodson, and he was big on quotes that I've always enjoyed, and I'll share with you. When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one of his own personal benefit. His education makes it necessary. Going forward also, I would like to pay tribute to Gary's own African American history subjects, people. This list that I put together, of course, is only partial. There are many, many more contributors to society, contributors to this great city, contributors to the country that, of course, that are left off this list. If I tried to detail it out in total completeness, I would still be writing names. So, with that being said, Charles Atkins, Fordy Anderson, Lyman Bostock, Avery Brooks, Vivian Carter, Rudolph Clay, Bianca Ferguson, Harry Flanoy, Tellis Franks, Karen Freeman Wilson, Winston Garland, Freddie Gibbs, A.J. Hammonds, Richard Gordon Hatcher, LaTroy Hawkins, Gerald Irons, Johnny Jackson, Ron Baker, Jason Johnson, Tank Johnson, William Marshall, Willie MacArthur, Dozier T. Allen, Lloyd McClendon, Larry Moffett, Brandon Moore, Felicia Middlebrooks, Jesse Powell, Dick Barnett, Jimmy Reed, Glenn Robinson, Quentin P. Smith, Hilbert Bradley, Reverend Dr. Julius James, Larry Dimmick, George Teleferro, Thomas Barnes, Clorius Lay, Mary Brown, Ernest Lee Thomas, Denise Williams, Fred the Hammer Williamson, Bobby McCullough, Lee Calhoun, Kelly Patterson, Katie Hall, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, the Jackson Five, Pookie Hudson, Reverend Dr. Robert Laurie, H. Theo Tatum, Harry Porterfield, Mary McGee. Our list, again, of notable African Americans out of this city, for all practical purposes, would be endless. The last on my list, Mr. Mark Spencer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening.
council, council president, mayor. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. We were asked to share some of our works with our young people in reference to Black History Month, and I would like to invite our members of our choral ensemble to our space at this time, if you will receive them. Following those young people under the direction of Mr. Keith Nelson and Ms. Markeisha Coleman, we will have a cutting of our current production of Fences by August Wilson. The scene will be led by actors Gerald Crockett as Troy, Ryan Robinson as Corey, and lastly, we will have a dance performance from our students from Gary Middle School Visual and Performing Arts under the direction of Mrs. Asia Diggins. Thank you so much.
two want to ask me, Mrs. Tweedy wanted to have a question for me. How come you ain't never liked me? Like me? Who says I gotta like you? What law is there to say I gotta like you? You wanna stand up in my face and ask me some crazy question like that, talk about liking somebody? Come here when I talk to you. Well, straighten up. Now I ask you a question. What law is there to say I gotta like you? None. All right then, don't you hear it? Ask me when I talk to you, don't you hear it? Then, boy, you said it in my house, you put a ceremony in it when I'm talking to you. Now I ask you a question. Hear it. Yes, sir. Got roof over your head. Yes, sir. Got clothes on your back. Yes, sir. Why do you think that is? Because of you. Because of you. Why do you think that is? She like you? Right. I go out here every day. Bust my butt. Put up with the practice all day long because I like you. Well, you're the biggest people I ever saw. It's my job. It's my responsibility. A man gotta take care of his family. You live in my house, sleeping your butt on my bed, filling your belly up with my food because you're my son. I'm flesh and blood, not because I like you. It's my duty to take care of you. I owe responsibility to you. So let's get something straight right here, right now, before we go on any further. I ain't got like you. Mr. Sawicki don't give me my money come payday because he likes me. He give me because he owes me. I didn't give you the thing I got to give you. I gave you a lot. Being a lot of work with opportunities. But now you don't like what part of the bargain. Don't you try to go over this like word about me. Don't like you. You need to be making sure you're doing right by you. You understand me? Well, get on out of here and get your job back.
we surely believe that the arts are alive in Gary, Indiana. Thank you. Have a great night.
And Mr. President, I have one other announcement. Mr. Spencer has been gracious enough to leave tickets for the Friday show, March 20th, 7 p.m. of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. As a matter of fact, I believe he will be performing in that skit also, that performance also. Tickets will be available outside of the door. They will be in the hands of Officer Williams. So don't try to grab too many, all right? So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Weatherspoon, and certainly we want to give a rousing round of applause to Mr. Mark Spencer and the Old West Side Academy drama team. Wonderful, wonderful presentation on all fronts. Any other members for special and select? Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
Mr. President, I'd like to mention that normally about this time, I start to talk about community meetings for the 3rd District. I am not sure when we're going to start them. We normally have them at Tolleson Pavilion, so I'm not sure what is happening with Tolleson Pavilion at this point. We may have to seek another spot in order to have them. But I just wanted to mention that because normally by this time we start to have our community meeting, our bi-monthly community meetings. I'd also like to take this opportunity to extend condolences to the family of Mr. Charles Brooks. Charles Brooks was a member, former member of the Gary School Board. He was an accountant, he was an attorney, and he passed away. I'm not sure when his services are going to be, but I certainly want to extend my condolences to Mr. Charles Brooks' entire family. I'd also like to extend my condolences to the family of Mrs. Geraldine Hughes. Many of you may know Geraldine. Geraldine was a barber for many years, the cute little barber with the silver hair, with the white hair. And she passed away. Her funeral services will be this Saturday at New Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church. So I wanted to be sure to extend my condolences to the entire family for Geraldine Hughes. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Atkins is recognized.
Okay, just to piggyback, we actually, for the 4th District, do have our first upcoming community forum scheduled. So that will be March the 19th at 6 p.m., and it will be taking place at the YWCA. Again, the 4th District Community Forum is going to be March the 19th, which is a Thursday, at the YWCA. It starts at 6 o'clock. The only other announcement that we have is the Gary Neighborhood Service Center Executive Director Albert Gay sent an email this morning, and actually Councilwoman Linda Barnes-Cotwell, this is taking place in your district, but if it's okay, I'll announce it since he sent it to me, and I'll send it to the team. To piggyback on Black history and focus on one of the trendy issues that is happening within the Black community, the Gary Neighborhood Service Center and Executive Director Albert Gay is hosting a forum entitled Tracing Trauma in the Black Community. Again, this is to give some information related to the impact of trauma and its effects of violence, drug use, and mental illness, and health issues specifically within the Black community. This event is taking place on Friday, February 28th, which is next Friday at 5:30 p.m. It will be from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And again, it's taking place at the Gary Neighborhood Service Center. The address is 300 West 21st Avenue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Any other members for special and select? Councilwoman Barnes-Cotwell is recognized.
I have a few announcements. A few churches are celebrating anniversaries. The first one is Greater St. Stephen's Missionary Baptist Church. They're having their family and friends today, Sunday, February the 23rd at 11 o'clock in their morning service. And afterwards, they're having a soul food feast. Van Buren Missionary Baptist Church, 2585 Van Buren. They're having a service, they're celebrating 100 years. So Friday, March the 13th, they're having a banquet at the Chateau. Sunday, they will have worship service at 9 a.m., followed by the 11 o'clock service also. And then a family reunion Saturday, July the 25th. And then Sunday, July the 26th, it will be their annual mission day. So for more information, you can contact Van Buren Baptist Church.
Thank you,
St. John, I'm not finished. St. John, 2457 Massachusetts, is celebrating Reverend R.E. Robinson's 4th anniversary. The first night will be tomorrow, Wednesday, February the 19th, and this will go every Wednesday until March the 11th. At 7 p.m., we'll have various visitors, and on March the 15th, we'll have 2 services. Last but not least, boards and commissions would like to make the announcement, the Advisory Commission for the Status of Black Males. We are appointing the following people. Benny Muhammad will be the Executive Director. Richard Allen will be the representative for the Gary Police Department. Vanessa Allen from the Urban League. And Dr. Angela Johnson Wells. Dr. Peter Maricas from the Gary Community School Corporation. Stephen C. Mays, the NAACP. Richard Nash, Work One. Dr. Janet Seabrook, Community Health Net. Dr. James Wallace, IUN Northwest, and he will be on behalf of William J. Lowe, the Chancellor, and Miles Tolliver. He's the mayor's appointee. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to accept these for the black status of the males.
Thank you, Councilwoman. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or comments?
Just one question.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
Are any of the people here, will we ever see these people?
Mr. Muhammad is here.
Who?
Benny Muhammad is here.
Well, I think, I see him. What about all the other people that you appointed?
Actually, they're all retaining their office, their spots, all except for Miles Tolliver.
Just, certainly I'm going to vote for it. I'd like to see people once in a while, because I'm not sure I know them. I'd be walking past them in the hallway. I just voted to put them on committees. I'd appreciate in the future that once in a while we see some of them.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Gowden.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, the named individuals are appointed to the Committee on the Status of Black Males.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay is recognized.
I certainly would like to endorse the comments made by Councilwoman Brown. I served with Mr. Brooks on that first elected school board, and certainly I list him as among a friend. I was very sorry that his death came to an end like that. There's another thing that I've tried to change, and finally I'm going to give up on it, because we don't hear anything from the clerk. The headings on these various ordinances and resolutions are insufficient for when you ask for something from the clerk's office. In some cases, they have to look through everything because they're not specific enough. This is my last comment on it. Whatever they send, but I have brought this to the attention of Ms. Reynolds, and I believe that the clerk should certainly indicate to this council that we should do a better job on these headings. I've been looking for a document, a parity between the police chief. I shouldn't say I've been looking for it. I requested between the police chief and the fire chief that was passed somewhere around 97, 98, and she's been unable to locate it. And that was, I'm almost positive it's an ordinance, but I'm not sure. So if the clerk does not complain, you will hear no further complaints from me about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Any other members for special and select?
I just want to say, Mr. President, that is an issue that Councilman Lay has brought up many times in the past, that our ordinances do not have enough information in the heading. And so it's difficult for a person to find out exactly what the ordinance is because the heading just does not have enough information. So this is not new. He has brought it up in the past several times before, and I don't know when it's going to be changed, but he has mentioned it before.
Mr. President?
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, and just like to thank my colleague, Councilman Witherspoon, for the excellent presentation that you did tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Mark Spencer. I know he's gone, but he has always done a great job with our young people, and
Yeah.
we're really blessed as a community to have Mark Spencer inside our community. And I would say it probably until I leave office, I feel that we should work toward to make sure we build a theater for Mr. Mark Spencer, because he
Yes.
sure enough deserves it. The type of art that he brings to this community is amazing. You could go anywhere, but he brings it right here to this community, where we don't have to go that far. And it's an excellent production. Anytime you go over to West Side, they're always putting their best foot forward. So I just want to commend Mr. Mark Spencer and what he continues to do for this great community. Also want to echo Councilwoman Brown and Councilman Lay in the condolences. I got a chance to know Mr. Brooks. He was my neighbor right around the corner from me. And I got a chance to know him on a personal level, and he was definitely a great man, someone that instilled a lot of knowledge inside of me at the same time. And I was just really looking forward to working with him on the council at the same time, because we were looking to bring him on as our financial
Financial
advisor,
advisor.
yes,
Right.
to the council. So he definitely will be missed from this community. Also, I want to commend our General Service Department for the great job that they did with removing the snow with the past snowstorm that we had. I just want to commend you all. A lot of times you get the complaints, but I want to acknowledge you when you do a good job at the same time. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Any other members for special and select?
Yes,
Councilman
Mr.
Weatherspoon.
President. Thank you, Mr. President. Also, I wanted to give a high five to the General Services Department. As you know, at one point in time, I did run that department. And those guys do a lot with little. And I take my hat off to them. You know, it's like they're just sitting on the side, just chomping at the bit, waiting on snow to fall. But they do an excellent job. So, you know, I know sometimes, you know, they still get the calls that, hey, you didn't get my street, or hey, I haven't seen a snow truck. But believe me, they are out there. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few announcements. The First District Community Meeting, the first one will be March 24th at 6:30 p.m. at St. Mary of the Lake at the gym. And we will have a nonprofit vendor fair. We're inviting all the nonprofit organizations within the First District to come and give a brief presentation about their organization and have a table so that we can solicit greater and more diverse membership within the nonprofit organizations of the First District. I want to give a shout out to St. Monica St. Luke. I was able to participate in the wonderful Super Bowl event they had in Emerson that Mr. Dave Castellanos organized. Several elected officials were present and a whole lot of members of the community, and had a fantastic time. I certainly want to celebrate the church for being engaged in the community in that way. Also want to acknowledge former 6th District Councilperson Levita Sparks Wade, who is with us tonight. Lastly, the Miller Beach Arts and Creative District presents Strong Roots, Amazing Achievements in collaboration with the Northern Indiana Links Incorporated and the South Shore Dance Alliance. Enjoy a night of soul food, soothing music, and dance performances from the best artists. Saturday, February the 22nd from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Marshall J. Gardner Center for the Arts at 540 South Lake Street. Performances will be by our very own Corporation Counsel's spouse, soprano lyricist Achillia McCain, and the South Shore Dance Alliance and the Billy Foster Trio. There will be voter registration as well as a silent auction. For more information, please email meg@millerbeacharts.org or call 773-822-8086. Again, that is Saturday, February the 22nd, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Marshall J. Gardner Center for the Arts. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown is
Thank you.
recognized.
I neglected to mention some donations that the Rainbow Ark Shelter had received, so I need to make a motion to mention those. The Rainbow Ark Shelter social service donations, they received from Darrell London 3D Motorcycle Club on February 13th, 2020, 30 boxes of Honey Bunches of Oat cereal. From Felicia Spears on February 13th, 2020, 2 bags of women's clothing. And from the students from IUN School of Medicine on February 3rd, 2020, 20 handmade fleece blankets. So, Mr. President, I will make a motion that we accept these donations.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, the named items to the Rainbow Shelter are accepted. Any others for special and select?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay is recognized.
I was hoping that you would bring it up. It appears we have a pocket veto, which certainly should make it part of the record. It's the one resolution by the Gary Common Council in regard to the Gary Community School Corporation. Based upon the communication, a memorandum from the clerk, the mayor did not sign it, so therefore he has pocket vetoed it. So that certainly should be part of our record.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. We had intended to include that as part of the third and final. However, since you have brought it up, I will entertain, is there a motion to override the mayor's veto? It requires a 2/3 majority to do so, but there would need to be a motion and a second to entertain an override of the veto. Seeing no motion and no second, the matter stands as vetoed. Any other members for special and select? All right. Madam Clerk, ordinances and resolutions on third and final reading.
CPO 2020-01, an ordinance establishing additional appropriations for Fund 261-5701, Commission for Women's Shelter Rehab. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, and Community Development Department.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown.
I move for passage of CPO 2020-01 on third and final reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there an overview?
Good evening, council members. CPO 2020-01 is an ordinance establishing additional appropriations for the rehab of the emergency shelter operated by the Commission for Women. With these funds, plus already appropriated dollars, there will be a budget of $110,000 for shelter rehab. So we're asking that this additional appropriation ordinance be approved.
Thank you. Any questions on council members?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay is recognized.
is that money coming from community development?
Yes,
So that's where it's coming from?
right. This is community development block grant money, which is matching emergency shelter dollars.
And that was already in your grant?
Yes.
No further question.
Any other questions? Now I have time for public comment. Seeing no one for public comment, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-01 passes and is so ordered.
CPO 2020-02, an ordinance of the Gary Common Council reappropriating funds and establishing a 2020 budget for the council's 708 Image Building Donation Fund for local community events in the city of Gary, sponsored by the Gary Common Council.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
I move for passage of CPO 2020-02 on third and final reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Overview.
Mr. President, I'll be giving an overview tonight. The purpose of this is to reappropriate the funds of the ordinance for the balance of the 708 promotional monies that did not roll over for 2020. The balance remaining for the 708 fund is $1,687.28. $1,200 is allocated to go towards the MLK breakfast, and the remaining balance of $487.28 will be left over.
Thank you. Councilman Brewer, any questions or comments? We're now open for public comment. Seeing no one, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-02 passes and is so ordered.
CPO 2020-03, an ordinance authorizing transfer of funds within 101 General Fund for the Gary Common Council, sponsored by members of the Gary Common Council.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown is
I move
recognized.
for passage of CPO 2020-03 on third and final reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Overview.
Yes, Mr. President. Within this council budget here, we're requesting to transfer $6,500 from this budget here, from professional services, to take care of other suppliers, and those other suppliers are upgrading electronics for the council.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Any questions or comments from members of the council?
I do have one
Councilman
comment.
Lay is recognized.
Inside of this ordinance, it's referred to the president as Mike Brown. I would think we would call him Michael A. Brown in official documents as opposed to nicknames.
Is there a motion to amend?
No, there's no motion to amend.
Okay. Point is well taken. Any other questions or comments by members of the council? Seeing none, we're now open for public comment. Seeing no one, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-03 passes and is so ordered.
CPO 2020-04, an ordinance appropriating 2020 budgets for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue funds for the City of Gary Commission for Women and Health and Human Services for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2020, ending June 30th, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2020-04 on third and final reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Overview.
Thank you. CPO 2020-04 covers three different grants. The first is an immunization grant from the Department of Health. This immunization grant is used to fund outreach in the Gary Community Schools, and it is used to provide immunizations for children. The second grant is a public health grant for emergency preparedness. And this grant allows the health department to train other staff for emergencies in the city. And the final grant is a grant from the Indiana Department of Corrections in the amount of $5,000 from the Victim Services Department, which will allow the Commission for Women to purchase stoves and refrigerators after their shelter has been rehabilitated.
Thank you, Attorney Coleman. Any questions or comments from members of the council? Seeing none, we're now open for public comment. Seeing no one, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-04 passes and is so ordered.
CPO 2020-05, an ordinance appropriating 2020 budgets for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue fund for the city of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2020, ending December 31st, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just 1 second. We did receive a memo from the Department of Finance reminding us that 2020-05 needs to be approved and ratified.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
Right, Mr. President, I move that CPO 2020-05 be approved and ratified on third and final reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any overview?
CPO 2020-05 covers 4 different grant situations. The first is an emergency shelter and food program where we received $3,500 from the United Way to support food and shelter expenses at the shelter. The second is a grant from the Connected Children to Nature grant that's sponsored by the National League of Cities. The purpose of the grant is to promote nature appreciation among children, and the secondary purpose is to discourage sedentary lifestyles among America's youth. The third grant is Gary Youth Speaks and Mayor Youth Speaks. These are 2 different appropriation ordinances, and they're associated with the summer and after-school meals programs, and this ordinance allows for the funding of the staff to carry out those programs. The city will receive funding for the actual meals themselves from the USDA. And finally, there is an ordinance included, a budget included in this ordinance for the rental registration program, where the salary of an inspector 2 was omitted prior to now, and we've asked him for it to be added back into the budget.
Thank you, Attorney Colvin. Any questions or comments from members of the council?
Mr. President.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
Can you tell the public what each one of these categories are? How much money? Do they have that information?
Besides being in the ordinance, you mean?
Yes.
The emergency shelter and food program is $3,500.
Okay.
The Connected to Nature grant and the Gary Youth Speaks grant, I don't have those ordinances in front of me, but they're in the ordinance itself, I'm sorry.
Right.
And the rental registration is a supplement to the base salary for the actual inspector too. It's about $7,300, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
We're now open for public comment. Mr. Reeves is recognized. Jason Reeves.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Gary City Council. My name is Jason Reeves. I do some writing in terms of the Herman Foundation's endowment, business, and engineering solutions. You know, I don't totally agree. I mean, I totally don't disagree with the legislature, but I hope that the observation as it was spoken, it would help children just as well as the concept of special revenue funds and donations in the previous legislation. I hope that the balance of these things can be considered properly and money can be spent in an effective way. there is disasters from time to time where contamination can destroy a household and money has to be spent, and contamination and flooding can cause food to be damaged and refrigerators not to work properly and a number of other things. So I hope there's a format to understand and guide those things, as well as with the executive branch and the legislative branch, and how the people can helpfully get the help they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Any others for public comment? Seeing no one, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Witherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-05 passes and is so ordered.
CPR 2020-01, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, acknowledging the logo, motto, mission, and vision of the 4th District, sponsored by Councilwoman Ty Atkins, 4th District.
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
Move for passage of CPR 2020-01 on third and final.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or comments?
Mr.
Councilwoman
President.
Atkins.
Thank you. So let me ask the question before I do the overview. Is it appropriate to share the boards for display to the public?
Sure,
Okay,
absolutely.
so let me do that first, and then I'll come back to my seat and do the overview. That's right. Thank you for bearing with that transition. But no, I didn't want to put it up there before the meeting, so it wasn't a disruption to the students that did a phenomenal job earlier in the program. So as it relates to CPR 2020-01, a part of an effort to collectively bring together the residents of the 4th District, to collectively create what is called a roadmap. A roadmap is a strategic plan. So it is a new vision, a new rebirth of our district. And so a part of a strategic plan is that you have to have a vision. You have to have a mission. You have to have what is called a motto so that you could have something to tie yourself to it as it relates to the values of how you're moving forward. So that was something that the residents of the 4th District had communicated to me that they were looking to do, and they were open to receive that. And a part of the feedback during the campaign season was that, they wanted a sense of belonging. So a good way to create a sense of belonging to residents is to give them something tangible to see, tangible to feel proud about. And so what we did collectively as a community is we thought about creating a vision, a mission, a motto, and a logo to represent the uniqueness within the district. So the boards that you see up front represents The top three that's at the top, which was actually voted on during the October 11th community meeting that we had in the 4th District, where the residents actually voted on the option that represented them the best. So as it was reviewed during the planning meeting, just for the public knowledge, we had a planning meeting last week, which is February the 11th, and in that planning meeting, I actually went through the three different options that we had up front, and then also more specifically went over the reasoning behind which particular option from a logo perspective was selected by the residents of the 4th. In short, the logo of the 4th is something to be proud of. It shows a chart or a graph, if you will, of the 4th District in a multitude of colors. Those colors are vibrant. Those colors resonate to the residents, and it also shows the diversity in terms of the makeup of the skill set, as well as the individuals that make up the 4th. In short, the residents that came to the planning meeting, we had a great response from them showing up to advocate for themselves. This is something that was created to go in parallel with whatever the administration is planning to do from a branding perspective of their own. This is not something to separate us. This is something to give us something to be proud of. And so I hope that, the council members are open to this. And it's something that kind of revived the heartbeat of the 4th District. So that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Comments or questions from members of the council?
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
Yeah, I'd like to commend Councilwoman Atkins on a job. She did a yeoman's job on this project. The residents of the 3rd District came to the Planning Committee meeting. They were excited about this. They said that this is what they want to do. And I just appreciate the hard work that she put into it. And I think that, I just thought it was a wonderful idea, and she did a great job, and the residents were very excited about it. And so I certainly support it. If the residents in the district think that this is a good idea for them, for their district, I think that we should certainly be in support of it.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members of the council?
Mr. President?
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
I also want to echo Councilwoman Brown. To Councilwoman Atkins, I thought she did a great job of putting this together. Everybody wants to feel a part of something inside their district, inside the city. I think this is a portion where you can really bring your community, your district together, and you all can do some fantastic things there. Just at the meeting just last week, out in the 1st District, the MCC meeting, that's a group that meets monthly, and they discuss different things that how they're going to make their community better. And we all know the Miller section is called, they look at it as Miller Beach. It's their own community. But any given day, there are always people out there doing something inside the community. They feel a part of it. They have their own garden club. They have other different little business district, community groups that meet for the business district that's out there. We don't even have to plant flowers on Lake Street. They take care of all the flower work out there on Lake Street. And that's just to be commended. But I think what you're doing inside your district, it should be, I'm a big fan of branding. I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of it. I have no hang-ups against it, but I think it's something good inside our community where we need to see more of it. I brought up years ago, before I got on this council, about even building subdivisions in our community. Some people shied away from, but some people thought it was a great idea because some people think it's something closed and no one else is included inside of it, but this is something for that district, in your district. And I think by the reaction of the citizens inside of the 4th District, they were really looking forward to this coming to play, and I just pray that we get this passed, and I'm going to be supporting you also.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to echo Councilwoman Brown.
Yeah, Mr. President, we had tried in the 3rd District some time ago, Attorney Brooks, the late Attorney Brooks, and the redevelopment department, Joe Van Dyke, when he was still redevelopment, and some other people. We had tried to do some things in the 3rd District. We wanted to brighten up the 11th Avenue. We wanted the 11th Avenue corridor. We wanted to bring some businesses in there. People in the 3rd District, residents in the 3rd District, had said that they wanted to see businesses in the district. They wanted us to You know, I kept saying that I wanted a bakery, I wanted cleaners. Those are some things that I wanted to see in our district, but the residents in the district wanted these same kinds of things, but we never were able to get this off the ground. And so I appreciate the fact that Councilwoman Atkins was in fact able to pull this together and get it going. We wanted to go over to the school, Ernie Pyle. We wanted to do a community garden over there. We just could not get things going off the ground. And I just think it's great when you pull people together in the district. It doesn't matter that it's a particular district. When you pull people together to do certain things in their district, I think it's a wonderful thing. And as I said, I commend Councilwoman Atkins. She's only been here a minute, and the rest of us have been here forever. We haven't been able to put anything together yet, so I think it's great.
I want to echo Council members Brown and Brewer in saying that I'd certainly tip my hat off to Councilwoman Atkins. She has my full support on this. You know, in our district, right now, we have a branding committee that meets every month, that makes logos, that designs websites, that has brochures that go into the Airbnbs. The Etna Manor Revitalization Program has a logo. And we're looking to do similar things with Friends of Glen Ryan. And I think to the point you made, that the fact that it's of, by, and for the people of your district. It's not being imposed on the district. It's coming from the people in the district. And it was truly beautiful at the community meeting to see the passion of the residents. And I would just say that, you know, nothing you're doing or nothing that any of the variety of organizations who do branding in the first district is meant to be in opposition or in disharmony with any citywide initiative. Or certainly we would want any citywide initiative to also be of, by, and for the people. And, you know, I look forward to having conversations myself with Mr. Reeves, who's dealing with the branding for the city. So you have my full support, and I look hopefully that other districts will do similar types of activities in their own way. Any other comments among members of the council or questions? So this is a resolution, and per our rules, there is no public comment on resolutions. So roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPR 2020-01 passes and is so ordered.
CPO 2020-11, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, adopting the 2019 Lake County, Indiana Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan update, sponsored by the Planning Commission.
The Corporation Counsel's Office has requested to defer CPO 2020-11. Is there a motion to defer CPO 2020-11 for a future date? Is there a motion to defer 2020-11 to a future date?
So, Mr. President.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or comments?
Yes,
Councilman Lay is recognized.
yes, if you fail to put a date in the motion, you have effectively killed it. You have to be very specific when you send it to I assume you're sending it back to committee,
It's,
but you need to have a specific date. It's not.
It will, City Council Attorney is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my understanding that the Corporation Council intends to bring it at the next regular scheduled meeting.
so, Mr. President, my motion will be to defer it to the next council meeting.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments?
And that council meeting is March the 3rd.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Witherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-11 is deferred to the March 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Gary Common Council.
Mr. President, it's pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
CPO 2020-12, an ordinance approving the reorganization and renaming of various executive departments of the city of Gary and amending salary and operating budgets in connection therewith. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
I move for passage of CPO 2020-12 on second reading, Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, February 25th, 5:30 p.m., and a public hearing on March 3rd.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions?
Mr. President.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
Attorney Williams, I believe, has given every member of the council Indiana Code 36-4-9-4. I think it will be helpful when you review 2020-12 that you review that statute. It pretty much is an outline of what the council can do and what the executive can do. So I would also ask that in terms of this, looking at this ordinance, that Corporation Council has cited several, I would assume, parts of the administrative code of the city. It would be nice if he included those codes. He's amended it, so somehow they should be brought to the committee, given to the committee, and make its task a little bit easier than for it to go back and find those specific codes. But again, I think with that statute and with him providing the codes, it will make your task a lot easier on the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Any other questions or comments from members of the council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Witherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-12 passes on second reading with a committee meeting on Tuesday, February the 25th at 5:30 p.m. in the Cleo Wesson Lounge.
CPO 2020-13, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 regarding jurisdiction of the Gary City Courts, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Councilman Williams is recognized.
Excuse me. Are we going to wait for Judge Monroe to be at the?
We'll invite Judge Monroe to the meeting.
Okay. Well, the council, the safety meeting will be next Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
All right, next Tuesday at 6 o'clock, and you're moving for passage on second reading
Yes.
of CPO 2020-13. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from members of the council? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Witherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-13 passes on second reading with a committee hearing to include the City Court Judge, Deidre Monroe, at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, February 25th in the Cleo Wesson Lounge.
CPO 2020-14, an ordinance appropriating 2020 budgets for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue funds for the City of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2020, ending December 31st, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
Mr. President, I move that CPO 2020-14 be moved on second reading, Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, February 25th at 5:30 PM, and a public hearing on March 3rd.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any question or comments among members of the council? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Witherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-14 passes on second reading with a Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, February the 25th at 5:30 PM in the Clio Wesson Lounge.
Mr. President, is pending orders and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I want to acknowledge the presence of our Mayor, Mayor Prince.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I have a couple of announcements and one particular comment, and of course, I'll avail myself of questions of this body. The announcements, well, let me just state that, as you all are aware, we've engaged in a number of changes of personnel throughout the city, one of which you all alluded to the work of this afternoon when you acknowledged the diligent services of the General Services Department. And I mention that because Ms. Dee Barber is here this evening. The salient point about her is that she moved from Human Resources to a department that she's familiar with, which is certainly helpful. But in this instance, she's committed to doing exactly what we've asked, and that's to make sure that there is 100% accountability within that department, and she's looking for opportunities to enhance it. Certainly doesn't suggest that we're demeaning the services of anyone from the past, but this is a young lady who's completely committed to excellence, and I think the evidence of that are the compliments that you gave her this evening. So I believe that we should expect greater things from her in that department, but I would be remiss also if we did not recognize the men and women of the department who are accepting and adhering to her direction. So I too would like to thank her for her efforts during this winter, and I look forward to what she's going to do this spring in the area of cleanup enhancement. The second announcement I have actually comes from another gentleman, or another person rather, who is a recent addition to the administration. It's Mr. Booz, who heads up the Youth Services Bureau. He asked that I make two announcements on a couple of initiatives that he's engaged in. One is the Mayor's Youth Council. There's an orientation Friday, March 12th, starts at 5 p.m. to 6:30, and it'll be at the Hudson Campbell Conference Center. Second is an Urban Scouts program. It's emphasizing nature in kids, where kids get to learn about nature. Activities include bird watching, hiking, kayaking, and much more. The only thing he didn't do is give me an exact start date of this program, but we'll report that out at the next council meeting. But just as a heads up, those activities will take place on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. at 100 North Lake Street at the Paul Douglas Center. The comment I have, Mr. Chair and members of the council, is relative to the resolution that was pocket vetoed. Ordinarily, when something goes favorable, and the favorable instance this time is that the council acknowledged and apparently agreed with the position of this administration in that that resolution should not have advanced. In anticipation of at least one or more persons having a different perspective, which we certainly respect, I'd like to offer some comments relative to my reasoning for pocket vetoing the resolution, and they're very simple. In order to do it justice, I guess I have to give somewhat of a chronology and state what my position had have been a few months ago, and I would have been in 100% support of that resolution. In fact, I understand that Attorney Coleman was extremely involved with this, and members of the council, and I too had had conversations with her in the past in support of that resolution. But as we get new information and as circumstances change, certainly some of our actions have to change. And in this instance, there were a couple of things that changed. The senator who sponsored Senate Bill 416 actually introduced that Senate bill in its original form that actually complemented the resolution. Once he did, it did not receive a hearing, and that's the most significant part about it, because having done so, he was required to come back and try to construct an amendment to it, one that achieved some of the benefits that we were looking for, but also one that would get a hearing and more than likely be accepted by his colleagues. And he did just that. He contacted the administration. We sent an individual down to work on it with him. We crafted legislation, or they crafted legislation that actually created benefits for us. And the benefits are consistent with the mission of this administration, one being to realize a mechanism or resources to demolish blighted and abandoned schools, and the other to make the necessary enhancements to the properties that we continue to maintain. Senate Bill 416, that is, from my perspective, does exactly that. And to that end, we felt as an administration it would be slightly contradictory to the support that we've garnered of 416 to support that resolution as well. I guess one of the primary focuses should absolutely consider that the senator who sponsored 416 also suggested and opposed the resolution based on the fact that he felt that it would receive or send a mixed message. And so it goes back to my original comment. I'm glad that this council did not override the veto, because I think it's imperative that even though we may have differing opinions, it's important that we send one message down, particularly when we've achieved the benefit of receiving resources through this bill to address what we consider to be two of the most important issues in our community. That is blighted conditions, as well as the ability to properly educate our children in settings that are conducive to learning. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Prince. Any questions of the mayor or other city officials from members of the council? Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the mayor if he has any idea when we're going to get some information regarding the roof at Towson.
So, Councilwoman, that information is forthcoming. I'll take it under advisement and share some very specific information with you, but to my knowledge, things are progressing, and it should be in very short order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions or comments from any other members of the council?
I have a comment
Councilman
on
Lay.
what the mayor just spoke about in terms of that, what he pocket veto. A resolution and a motion are one and the same thing. I would assume if it had been made in the form of a motion, we'd ask that the question be a division of the question. I spent a great deal of time reviewing the resolution. First of all, and I don't have it before me, but as I recall, the first sentence was to say, forgive us for a debt of $100 million. I was on that fiscal management board. The second sentence, as I recall, paragraph said, restore the board back to its position from an advisory board. The third item in the resolution dealt with, as I recall, West Side High School. And there, I believe the question was give us a 25 more million. Now you were somewhere in excess of 125 million. Then all of a sudden it appeared about making Roosevelt a museum. Well, I went to Frabel K through 12. I certainly don't have anything against Roosevelt. It was also part of the resolution. Then further in the resolution, it calls for the Jackson 5 to do something with the Jackson household. And then there were several other minor points. And then finally it said to coordinate it with the West Side PTA. Well, I think he had to do several things. Let's just for a moment set aside Senate Bill 416. Senate Bill 567 in fact, brought in the emergency manager on April the 28th, 2017. So, and that was initially was Melton's bill, but I think it was taken over by someone else. You would sort of have to set that aside. There is a date within 567 that indicates when the emergency manager will cease to operate. I don't see how they will accomplish anything by 2000, I think it's January 1st, 2022. Then to return the power back to the school board would require you to do something with House Bill 1315. I was going to find it very difficult to vote for all of that at once because I'm not sure who you would give that to. Certainly some of it requires legislation, I guess, to get money for a museum would not be DUAB, Distress Student Appeals Board. I assume that would go to the government to get money out of his rainy day fund. So I agree with the mayor's position. I just don't agree how he got there. But I do agree that certainly a veto was in order.
Councilman Weatherspoon is recognized.
No, Mr. President, I was just.
Any other members of the council have questions or comments? I just wanted to ask, I get a lot of calls from a lot of folks, and I know public safety is a big concern in our city, especially the police department. I know there's a lot of things happening there. And so I just wanted to know, Mayor Prince, if there's anything that you think you should apprise the council of, any communications from relevant agencies or other organizations that the council has not been apprised of, and just the general nature and tenure of what's happening at the police department.
Not at this time, Councilman, Mr. Vice President, largely because what we're seeking to do is work with each and every organization that wants to make sure that public safety is a priority. What we will do once we convene with the chief and our executive law enforcement partners is make a full presentation to this body as well as the general public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Prince. Any other questions or comments from members of the council to city officials?
I do have.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
When will we get the, I guess, this statement of the financial affairs of the city? When will that be forthcoming?
Mr. Lay, or Councilman Lay, I'm sorry,
Either one is acceptable.
My apologies, no disrespect intended. That's something that we're working on daily, and just as soon as we get it, I guarantee you that you and this entire body, as well as the citizens, will be the first one to know. So I've just got an indication from our Chief of Staff, which suggests March 1st will be prepared. Thank you.
I have a further question, and I'm not sure when it started, but as I read the statute, I'm talking about 36453, and I forgot what subparagraph it is, it actually has to come to the council when it's in session. Now, I'm not saying change what other mayors have done. They went across the street to the Genesis Center and they...
About the same thing?
Huh?
Are we talking about the same thing, the mayor? Because March 1st is a Sunday. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing that Mr. Lay is talking about.
So probably after March 1st, I'm sure she didn't check the calendar when she looked, but the point is after March 1st, it'll certainly be done. So the first business day after March 1st. And if the councilman would repeat his question, I'm not sure I understood that second part of it. Thank you.
I'm not sure when it started because I can't go behind the former Mayor Richard Hatcher, but they usually give, I'm going to call it the State of the City address, has been given at the Genesis Center, and the mayors over time charge so much to come, and they give that financial report. And again, I may be in the absolute minority. As I read the statute, the council has to be in session. You know, just like unfortunately Donald Trump had to go to Nancy Pelosi and give the state of the nation. I think you actually have to tell us when we're in session. Now, I think you can do the thing over to Genesis Center, but immediately after that, I believe it should come before the council. And I think set that back as I interpreted it. Now, I'm looking at, for the benefit of Attorney McCain, I'm looking at Indiana Code 36453. It may be paragraph 3, I'm not sure, but it's in there.
So, Councilman, I guess I completely misunderstood the question, and the answer that we received from Corporation Counsel certainly isn't consistent with the date of the state of the city. There certainly is time to present it to the council. Thank you for that bit of information. The actual state of the city, and I guess this could satisfy for the announcement to the council, will be March the 28th. The information she was talking about is information, I'm sorry, 27th. I don't have a calendar here either. It's on the last Friday of the month. Whatever day that falls in, I'll take your word that it's the 27th. The information that she provided is an accounting from this executive branch of government as to where we are financially. And I, again, misunderstood the question. And Councilman, I just have one other point, and it's sort of, I don't know, my attempt at humor here, but I take no offense at the fact that you've compared me to Mr. Trump twice.
No. People keep, I'm saying if he can come to Nancy Pelosi, you can come to us.
No, I get it. As I said, that was my attempt at humor, Councilman. No offense taken.
Even if we should fall out, I would never reduce you to Donald Trump.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I might call you Attorney Williams.
City Council Attorney is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lay brought that statute to me some weeks ago. I have had an opportunity to review the statute and look at the original intent of the statute. As they do with Congress, since we're talking about Trump and Pelosi, the original intent was, at the state of the city, was to call the council to order. That you would introduce the mayor would come in, similar to the State of the Union, and the council would actually be in session when he does the State of the Union, State of the City. That way, making it that you don't have to have two separate meetings. As Attorney Lay said, we have I don't even know if we've ever practiced it that way, but I did seek some input from those who have many more years of experience than I, and that was the original intent of the statute, is that the council actually controls the meeting. You call the council to order, you introduce the mayor, and you present the mayor to give the state of the city. I would suggest we do it that way as not to have a duplicate meeting and receiving the same information.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. Any other questions or comments of city officials by members of the council? Councilman Brewer is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And if that is the case, I would just introduce that we have a special meeting that day. And that way it will satisfy, hopefully, both parties on both sides there. Well, we can do it according to the statute.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Is there anyone else? I will announce that the council will have an executive session. I'm taking a risk here in terms of date and time, but let me know if it does not work. We are attempting to do this on Monday, February the 24th at 5:00 p.m. It will be an executive session of the council at the Cleo Wesson Lounge on Monday, February the 24th at 5:00 p.m. Are there any objections or concerns with that time and date?
I have a concern. You have to be very specific under the statute as to what the executive session will be. They certainly got to put it in writing.
City Council Attorney is recognized.
Of course, Attorney Lay, we're aware of the statute and we will conform with the statute. But since you put it, it's to discuss personnel issues, but that will be done properly according to, not to violate open door.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. All right, at this time, I'm going to allow Attorney Tracy Coleman to offer a response to the inaction on the resolution concerning the Gary Community School Corporation. She will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Godwin. Good evening, everyone, Mayor Prince. And as we look at Black History Month, I think it's important for you all to recognize that you're making history too. So when our children and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren look back at 2020 to see what their leaders fought for, it's important that we define the agenda. And I truly want to thank the parents with the Westside Leadership Academy, PTSA, because what these parents did was they showed courage and they drafted a legislative agenda. And when you look at any other community, you know it's important because you're paying state taxes, you're paying federal taxes. So you have to realize that you're a citizen of Indiana and you're also a citizen of the United States of America. So you have a right to ask for stuff. And that's what our parents did. And actually our legislative agenda shouldn't be that hard. Because if we look at what do you want for your children, if you see the roofs in the Munster schools aren't leaking, what do you want? Do you want your children when they go to Westside to have a roof that doesn't leak? When you see these school districts and they're building field houses and they're building new schools, but then we recognize in Gary you have these unique challenges. And when you look at the legislation when it was drafted, it referred to these unique challenges in our community, where you have a major corporation that went from 66 million to 14 million, where you have 60% of your children in poverty, where we're looking at median incomes of 15,000. Something's wrong here when people aren't succeeding and prospering in the richest country in the world. And so this is where we as leaders, even if you don't get it, it's important to ask. And that's what our parents did. In my opinion, that ask did not deserve a veto. It deserves our community to come together to say our fight is not with each other. Our fight is for these children. So when we're in these sessions, and we know it's a Republican-dominated legislature, we have to have the courage to say, even though Gary may have economic conditions that are stifling, our children do not deserve to go to school where the roof is leaking. Our children do not deserve a community where in the summer it's overwhelmed with violence and they're looking at this stuff. Our children don't deserve a community where they're seeing these buildings that should have been torn down a long time ago. But the reality is we can't change the past, but we can impact the present. So I encourage every parent in the Gary schools, do a PTA, a PTSA at your school. Because whether we cannot connect as politicians,
You can continue for 1 minute.
we should be able to connect as parents, mothers, fathers, grandparents. And our email address is wslaptsa@yahoo.com. That's wslaptsa@yahoo.com, because our children deserve everything we have to give them and more. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Attorney Coleman. I want to, just for a matter of clarification on our scheduling, see if we can do a motion for the following. To have our Finance Committee meeting on Monday, February the 24th at 5:30 p.m. in lieu of Tuesday, February the 25th at 5:30 p.m. and our Public Safety Committee meeting at 6 o'clock p.m. on Monday, February the 24th in lieu of Tuesday, February the 25th. Is there a motion?
So, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, the Finance Committee meeting is moved from Tuesday, February the 25th at 5:30 p.m. to Monday, February the 24th at 5:30 p.m. And the Public Safety Committee meeting is moved from Tuesday, February the 25th at 6 p.m. to Monday, February the 24th at 6 p.m. And I will just reiterate that our executive session to discuss personnel matters will be on Monday, February the 24th at 6:30 p.m. All of these will be in the Cleo Wesson Lounge. At this point, we are open for public portion.
Mr. President, we have 3 names on our speakers list tonight. The first speaker will be Ms. Lavita Sparks Wade.
Good evening, Mr. President, to the council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Lavita Sparks Wade, and I reside in the 6th District. And I am coming in West Side attire today because of the issues that the school is facing. My son is a sophomore at West Side High School. He is an honor student. He just got 3 A's and a B on his report card. And he's doing this in spite of the conditions that are there. He is a member of the band. He plays the tuba.
Yes.
And he certainly played yesterday on Sunday, didn't he? He can play that tuba. And he just picked it up this year. Last Saturday, on February 8th, we went to Munster High School, where the ISMA contest was held. It used to be held at Lew Wallace High School back in the day. Well, my son received a gold medal for playing his tuba, and so did a whole bunch of other children. And we're looking at West Side children. I understand, I may understand why there's not a sense of urgency from this council and from our mayor, because you all don't have any children in the Gary Public School Corporation. None of you do. And so we're putting our money where our mouth is. Our children don't have to. We don't have to keep our children there. Certainly Attorney Coleman doesn't have to keep her son there. He's a sophomore as well and doing extremely well. One of the things that we would like to see, because our PTSA put that resolution together and they nailed down and put some really solid agenda items together. These are tax-paying residents. These are voting residents. These are people who decided, you know what, my kid deserves better now. Not, Edison has been vacant for 30 years. We're talking about right now. What do they need? Go in the West Side Library. They used to have a blue awning or whatever, trying to catch the water before it hits the books. Now, at least the awning is matching the wall, okay? Our children deserve better. I really thought that somebody was going to raise their hand and say, I'm making this motion. But nobody had the courage to go against the mayor on a 7-to-1, what was a 7-to-1 vote? And my problem with that is, folks, we don't have a whole lot of time. I was at a legislative review on this past Saturday. Senator Eddie Melton was in support of, and he spoke. So I'm saying that I don't know where our mayor got his facts, but they are what we call alternative facts. And so on Saturday, I don't think I saw anybody here on that at that legislative review where our state legislators.
You may continue for 1 minute.
Thank you so much. Our state legislators had a review and they told us everything that was going on downstate. And Senator Eddie Melton, State Rep Vernon Smith, State Rep Earl Harris, all of them were in support support of this resolution because some regular folk put it together. Some regular folk brought it before the council. I sponsored it, but we voted on it, and it was a duly passed resolution. Our mayor, our former mayor, Karen Freeman Wilson, never vetoed anything. I think it's a waste of your political capital at this point to veto a resolution supporting our children. Thank you.
Thank you, former Councilwoman.
Mr. Chair,
Mayor Prince is recognized.
and certainly not to offer debate, but there were some inaccuracies that were stated. I intentionally spoke with everyone associated with this, including the senator, and he specifically said he did not support it. I wouldn't make an assertion that wasn't factual, certainly, because it's very easy to pick up the phone and call him. And so unless he changed his mind between then and now, then I stand with what I said. In terms of addressing the solution, I believe all of the members of this council agree that there is a mechanism within 416 to do just that. On the second day of this administration, we made it very clear what our position was in terms of the abandoned and blighted schools, and we were equally clear about what our position was about the conditions of the existing schools. The point is certainly just about every element that was in the resolution was one that was reasonable. But outside of just stating an opinion, there was no end to the means, and the means being a way to address the conditions that were just stated by the young lady. And so to that point, we stand, I certainly as an administration, meaning we stand by our position on that, and I continue to appreciate and acknowledge the sentiments of the council and adhering and agreeing with that. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay is recognized.
I didn't realize I might had interfered with the present mayor. I've not had interfered with any mayor that sued most of them. All but maybe Mayor Rudolph Clay. I think they misunderstood what I find at fault with the resolution. Do you want $100 million forgiven, or do you want to repair the Jackson 5 home? Do you want to restore the city council, restore the Gary School Board, or do you want to make Roosevelt a museum? I tried to explain it at the outset, and apparently, as usual, I have failed to communicate. What you probably should do is take this one resolution and make about 5 resolutions. Then designate where these resolutions go to. If you're talking about the $100 million, then you certainly can look at Senate Bill 567. I had discussion with the state representative, not with the senator, but I did talk twice to people in his office in Annapolis. I did talk to Representative Earl Harris. If you're talking about restoring the school board, you got to do something with House Bill 1315. Now, I'm not sure where this is being submitted. When I looked at the resolution, it could be submitted just about anywhere. You certainly cannot go to the governor and ask him to forgive the $100+ million. That sits in Senate Bill 567. You have to do something with that. I'm sure I'm accurate because I was on that fiscal management board up until May the 14th, 2019. I stepped down because I found that the emergency manager and what was going on over there was a complete waste of my time. At my age, I don't have a lot of time to waste. So I'm very cautious about that. Everything in there was fine. It's a catch-all. It just shouldn't all be in one place. I'm just not sure where you would be submitting such a resolution. So I don't believe we, as I said earlier, I didn't agree. I agree with what the mayor did in terms of the veto. I don't agree with how he got there, though. I mean, I'm not sure why Senate Bill 416 in any way is in conflict with giving us $100+ million or repairing West Side, and I agree West Side should be repaired. When I was on the school board in 1992, we were repairing West Side, and we have been repairing it ever since it was built, and I believe that was in sometime around 1968. It was opened February the 3rd, 1968, and it was in bad shape then. So I agree, we need, matter of fact, we need a new school. We don't need to keep repairing these old schools, we're just throwing away money. So, but I'm not sure what this community would do with a referendum calling for additional taxes in order to build this school, but that's what we need. And I don't care what you call it, Roosevelt, whatever other name you want to call it. But I thought I'd clear up why I agree with the mayor. I didn't agree with how he got there, though.
And I would just echo that, I don't think it's so much that we agreed with the veto. I didn't necessarily agree with the veto, right? There was no motion or second to call for a vote to override the veto, which would have required 6 votes. And so I think in the spirit of what Councilman Leah suggested, it does not stop you from advocating a new way or a different way or a collaborative way with Senator Melton and others in the state legislature to accomplish the same objective in short order, because I know that this is a very short legislative season. I certainly championed, I was willing to co-sponsor it, if you recall, when it was in question about what would happen with the legislation. So I don't want my not being able to make a motion to suggest that I agreed with the veto. Any other responses to that particular issue? We'll continue with our public comment.
Okay. Moving on, our next speaker is Mr. Jim Nowacki.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District, and most people never notice when you do something right. It's just part of human nature. When you do something right, people don't generally notice it. But when you make a mistake, people do tend to notice that, and that's human nature. The Redevelopment Commission held a meeting on January 22nd where they received bids to award a sale of 7201 West 9th Avenue. Many of you are familiar with it. It's adjacent to a big pile of construction debris. The construction pile has flooded the entire area, including the right-of-way. It's in the 2nd District. They had a special meeting earlier this month where they announced that they were going to be awarded that sale at the meeting tomorrow, and that would be the 19th. They didn't say they were going to take a vote on it. They said they were going to award it. They hadn't taken a vote yet, but obviously they're going to award it. And it's interesting because the only bidder on it was the Gary Materials Service, and that's Bill Preitzer, who was one of the largest contributors to the previous mayor. Now, people don't notice when you do the right thing, but when you do the wrong thing, for instance, if you're seeking to dispose of surplus property, you need appraisals done. You need legal notices published. You need to mail legal notices to adjacent owners. And the bids received need to be available for the public to review under requests for public records. Now, for 3 weeks, I've been trying to get that information. I know that legal notices were not sent to adjacent owners. I know that. And of course, the problem now is that without a vote, they've already said they're going to award it to one of the largest contributors to the previous administration. And his intended use is to continue building that pile of debris that he started on his own property. He's going to continue building that pile of debris. He's going to continue to increase the flooding on adjacent properties and on the public right-of-way. And they've already done this without a vote. They've already done this without public notices. They've already done this without honoring requests for information. They're going to do it tomorrow. Now, some of you recognize this is going to be a big problem. Some of you maybe say, well, it's the redevelopment commission, it has nothing to do with us. But you do have two representatives, and I would hope that at least one council member would be at the meeting when they're going to finish this debacle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nowacki. Councilman Weatherspoon is recognized.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Mr. Nowacki, I just want to correct you. That property is in the 3rd district. It is not in the 2nd district. Thank you. It's in the 3rd district. I know my boundaries.
Public comment to continue.
Our last speaker for the evening is Ms. Michelle Robinson.
Good evening, Council,
Good evening.
Mayor, Mr. President. My name is Michelle Robinson. For those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. I am the proprietor of Clean Paws Mobile Grooming Salon. I am the only mobile groomer in the city of Gary. I am also the founder of Cause for Paws Gary. We are a 501c3 nonprofit animal welfare organization in the city of Gary. And since October 14th of 2014, we have been actively and aggressively pursuing 3 to 5 acres of land in the city of Gary to create an off-leash community dog park. We also host a monthly pet food pantry where we provide dog food, cat food, and cat litter to qualified low-income residents in the city of Gary, additional to assistance with spay, neuter, and vaccinations for low-income residents to address the animal welfare problem in our city. I'm here tonight to say hello, to introduce myself. We will probably be seeing each other a lot as we continue to pursue our quest to bring a dog park to our community. If you are not aware, the animal welfare or animal industry is a $684 billion industry. And people spend money on their dogs. And they love their pets, and in some cases, their pets are the only reason why they sustain life. We have actively now become an advocate for people who have passed away and their pets have no one to speak for them. We are actually putting those pets into foster care, making sure that they receive vet care and vaccinations. So we do a lot for animals in our community. Our animals are overlooked. They are overlooked citizens, but they are here, they are important, and they are important to our residents who vote and who pay taxes and love their pets. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being a business owner in this community. And certainly I know in the 1st district there's a lot of desire for a dog park, so we might be able to work together on some of those initiatives.
Mr. President, that ends our public portion.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chair.
We stand adjourned.
At home taking pictures, telling me I look like this.